Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Sales Circle, where we intend to bring you plenty of hints, tips, tricks and advice on everything to do with sales, marketing and business growth. I'm your host, Rob Spence, the Managing Director of Paragon Sales Solutions. And this week, I'm absolutely thrilled to have with us the incredible Darren Cotton from Cotton Inc. Darren, good to see you.
Good to see you too, and welcome for having me on.
No, thanks for joining us. So, Darren, we've known each other for
years.
Yeah, good, probably too long, actually. Really, some would say.
Show your age.
Absolutely. But Darren, you are the owner, the founder, the genius behind a company called Cotton Inc. Tell me all about Cotton Inc.
I wouldn't say genius, but yeah,
we'll cut that out.
Yeah. I started Cotton Inc. Coming 10 years ago now.
Wow, congratulations!
A long time ago. So it's been through its ups and downs, especially over the last few years.
Of course, yeah.
As all businesses have had to face those challenges.
Yeah.
So 10 years, still going, still here. Still creating, which is always nice, and it's always good to have a good series of clients to build a good relationship with. So that's always lovely.
Great, and we should probably mention, what does Cotton Inc. do? What is the purpose of Cotton Inc.?
Cotton Inc. is actually I'm basically a freelance designer. So I do for myself. I work in a variety of different sectors. Things from I literally can design a shop.
Wow.
All the fixtures and fittings, the floor, the lighting, the ceilings, all the way down to the graphics, the branding, the marketing, and even the website.
Wow.
So it's a whole encompassing solution. So physical, print, digital, a lot.
Fantastic. So anyone watching this that needs any design work doing, everything from your flyer right up to your shop front.
Yeah. So if you've got a new business and you've got no idea in terms of what you want to do, branding, look, style wise, I can support you for all of that element. Or if you've got an existing business and you just decide you need to either refresh or you need some additional support to do any aspects of design, then that's where I come in basically. So
amazing.
Tend to work with a lot of businesses that are too small really to have their own in-house designer.
Yeah.
So I pick up that side of things for them.
Fantastic. And I assume before that, then, where did the inspiration for Cotton Inc. come from? What's the background?
Before that, so I started. I've always been a designer.
Okay.
At university, I did my couple of degrees in design, sort of thing. I left university into exhibition design, bizarrely.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of the best starts for I think any sort of designer to go into, because the actual design company that I was in had its own manufacturing shop next door. So the designers were in one room and the builders and the chippies were in the other room. So if you're fresh out of university and you come into the real working environment and you suddenly realise university isn't great, but it is nothing like real life. All these ideal and perfect briefs you get and perfect timescales just don't exist.
No.
And you walk into a real design environment and you suddenly get to realise, okay, this is what real life's about. And then you get given stuff and you get the opportunity to go next door and speak to the people who are going to manufacture your design. Yeah. It is an incredible learning experience for any designer.
And I guess it must have been quite nice during that stage to actually see your finished designs quite quickly.
You can see it being made. You can go speak to them. If they've got problems or issues with the design, they can come and speak to you. If you are literally designing something, you go, I'm not sure how I make this. You can go speak to someone and they go, well, we wouldn't do it like that because we couldn't do that type of joint, but we could do this type of joint. So you just need to modify it. So that's been a great foundation for doing a lot of the shop fitting work that I do. At least I know when I design something, it can be manufactured.
Yeah.
I'm not making out of materials or using joints that just cannot be used.
Yes.
So there's always an end game of, can this be made at the right kind of cost for the end consumer?
Which makes sense. So you did that for a while, and then
did that for two and a half years.
Yeah.
And then kind of reached the point it was dead man's shoes, wasn't going to be moving up in the chain there. And so I decided to start looking to elsewhere. And I just happened to be invited to an interview at a well-known pharmacy brand.
Okay.
One of the two big boys. And I was there for 9 years with them as their senior store designer.
Wow, fantastic.
That's why I ended up with them.
Yeah.
It was a long run. So basically, it was a very interesting interview. I worked in one of their branches when I was at university. For your beer money.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so I am pharmacy trained. I've actually got all of the MVQs for I could go into a pharmacy tomorrow. It's still all valid, and I can quite happily.
I've got a rash.
I don't know. That's a cream for that. Yeah, congrats to pharmacists. But yeah, so I got trained in all that. So when I literally went into the interview, it really was just a case of, can you use CAD? Because if you can use CAD, you've got the job. Because we've never had a designer that's actually worked in a pharmacy environment before, or a medical background. So it was.
So you're the perfect.
That was it, and that would led to 9 years with them.
Wow.
And yeah, worked finally up to sort of senior designer level, and it was a really interesting and quite engaging time. When it's a sector that I suppose doesn't get a lot of focus, because most people walk into a pharmacy are ill.
Yeah.
They're not generally going in there for retail purposes.
Yeah.
But it's still a retail environment. You're still trying to sell stuff. Whether it could be a slightly more medical orientated environment, or you're trying to sell a service.
Yeah.
To try and improve someone's health and help them maintain their health, is still selling.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so then in the jump into cottoning.
Yeah, the jump in there. Basically, they got took over, and then they got took over again.
Right.
And it was a crashing and merging of different design houses and design teams from all over the place. I spent a lot of time going to and from Germany for quite a while.
Okay.
And then it got to the point where it was realised that they didn't need a UK design team. And basically I got made redundant at that point.
Right.
Boo-hoo.
Sad time.
But I've been there for 9 years.
Yeah.
So I left with a good settlement, as it were.
Yeah.
I'd made the decision. I've always wanted to run my own business.
Right.
My dad ran his own business for years.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he was a high-end engineer,
Okay.
Precision engineer. Almost every single jet engine in this world has a bit my dad's made on it.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is mental if you think about it.
Yeah.
But I've always seen how running your own business can be. I always fancied giving it a go. There was enough money in the tank that I could give it a go with not sacrificing my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I gave myself 6 months. I said, if I can't do it in 6 months, I can't get the ball rolling to the degree that I'm happy with, then I will go back into employment. And that was 10 years ago.
Congratulations. And here you are now.
Here I am now. I just thought I would be in an office here being filmed to go onto YouTube.
I know, to have 3 viewers watch it.
I know.
Insane.
It's just
absolutely insane.
What, that many?
So, we're hopeful. We're hopeful.
Dad will probably be one of those.
Exactly. So, I mean, I guess I didn't really prepare for this question, but I guess over the years you would have seen a lot of change with design.
Yeah.
And how it's done and implemented.
I've been going for 20 odd years now. I mean, I know I don't look that old.
No, you must have started when you were 3. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe. But when I was at university, we were still using things like markers and literally hand drawing and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, this day and age now, I would never pick up a marker to do anything. It's all done in the computer.
It's all done with
Yes,
yeah.
done with the computer. I mean, I was one of the first at university where I got a drawing pad that allowed me to physically draw in the computer.
Oh wow!
All the hand renderings, all the drawings, but it still was drawing.
Mm-hmm.
There was no SketchUp.
Right.
Adobe is very much still in its infancy, so Photoshop was pretty clunky.
Yeah.
If you got your hands on it, I mean, at university they never touched us any things like Photoshop or Illustrator. It was these random packages that nowadays just don't exist and gone.
Yeah.
Everything was hand drawn on a
Wow.
big sheet of paper, and then moving into I remember AutoCAD. Well, you still did most of it by commands on the keyboard.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen those. I've seen videos of that.
People, by literally thinking in 3D and doing point coordinates in your head to draw 3-dimensionally. I mean, the using the mouse was revolutionary. So when I moved over into my first job, and it's a proper CAD studio. I mean, a really big, and they had huge monitors that were the size of TVs. I mean, in the summer, the room was insanely warm because of all these massive computers. And nowadays, our phones are more powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was just, if you wanted to send a render, you would have to send it overnight to the render farm, and you'd have to send an email around to the entire office to say, everyone leave their computers on, because they will all be utilised to do a render.
Wow.
So you had to be 100% certain that shot for the rendering was accurate and ready to go. It's insane because, I mean, nowadays, my laptop can do it in 9 minutes.
Yes.
But back then, it was like, and come in the morning with your fingers crossed that you've got everything right and all the ray tracing has worked and all the shadow and everything like that. Otherwise, it's the next day, send an email around and press it all again.
Wow.
I know.
So big changes. Big changes.
Yeah.
But I guess the constant that remains is how design can truly affect and support sales.
Yeah, everything. I mean, if you think about everything has to be designed, whether it's this simple coffee mug.
Lovely. Well, some wouldn't say it was simple. Some would say it was
well, very elegant. I mean, someone thought about all the colours on this. I mean, tied it all together.
You can tell that I designed them.
Someone's got to do it. It's still a design to that look. But Apple are are the kings of like fine design as you want. They can hone out of aluminium is craft. And someone's had to sit there and work all that out. I mean, obviously that's very technical, but it still has to appeal. I mean, if you were to take that apple and you were to actually strip it down to its core components, and you've got to think about all the thermodynamics and packing everything, get all the battery life in, it doesn't need to be in that pretty case. Does it? It could quite happily be in a square box, and it would do exactly the same because all the internal components would be the same. Why have they gone to the extra length to make it look a beautiful bit of kit? Because as humans, we're attracted to shiny things.
Yes, which I think is a valid point. We do want the beautiful things. We want the shiny things in life, the things that look good.
Appeal. You want the appeal. I mean, it's just our nature to have an aesthetic we go for. And that can massively make or break a product.
Right, yeah.
And that, not just the designing the product, but everything that goes around encompasses this product to sell. From the people selling it to all the assets and materials that they've got on hand to sell that product.
Yeah.
It should tell a story to the consumer. It should be the whole package. It's almost a case they know if you're selling a product at a trade show, for instance, the whole stand and the branding and the marketing and the pop-up should all tell a story, and the consumer should be able to stand on its own without someone there reinforcing it.
Yes, yeah.
That person there then should be able to use all that material behind them to really reinforce and to make that sale.
Absolutely. I think it's a key point because I think there's this, that old adage of, never judge a book by its cover, or, we shouldn't be too vain as to how things look, but we are. I've been to plenty of exhibitions, and I think back to the stands where they've just got, two simple roller banners and a table, just rushed together last minute.
Yeah, thrown together, badly designed, too much information normally.
Yeah.
Text overload.
Or like not
bad images.
Yeah,
pixelated, low-level res images. They've not gone to the effort to actually pick up a camera or get some decent stock photography.
Feel like you're about to attack people at exhibitions for having bad stands.
But my first job was exhibition stands. I've gone all the way around the world looking at exhibition stands, and you've seen some truly horrendous ones.
But you are right. It's those that put you off going to speak to kind of engage and speak to those.
It's a shop front. Yeah. You have to treat every bit of design as a shop front. It's not just about literally having a shop front. Your website's a shop front, because a lot of days, especially nowadays, like digital interaction is possibly the first point of call that anyone's going to have with your product. Or when I say a product, that can be a device, something you're selling, a service. That's their first point of call with it. So that can be, your website, your social media accounts, your TikTok. All of that is a touch point for the customer, and therefore that is a shop front.
Yeah.
And it should be treated like that. I mean, look at some of the retailers, some of the big retailers, and the efforts that they go to for their shop front windows.
Yes.
There's a reason they do that. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother doing it.
Absolutely.
So why wouldn't you do the same for all of your marketing touch points?
And I think you're right. I think we live in a world where how those customers enter what I call them, our universe, how those customers come into our universe is completely different now to how it would have been back in the past. And no matter what any marketing
says, it's changed since I was a lad.
Yeah. All those 50 years ago. Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't have the internet. I remember that coming in.
Yeah.
I wasn't there before, and I'd never had a computer properly until I got to 13 or something like that. And that didn't have an internet connection the internet wasn't even a thing. I mean, we were talking about with his friends, we were talking about the youth generation, how they can just literally Google it.
Yeah.
Back in the old day, Google didn't exist. And if you know, it was a revelation when you didn't have to go to the library anymore to look something up, but you could go to Microsoft Encarta.
Oh, Encarta,
and it was
on a
a
disc.
CD.
Yeah, on a disc.
It's like that. And it was like, I mean,
I think we were running like Microsoft Encarta 97.
yeah, 97.
Like in the 2000s, you know, so it was already out of date. We used Ask Jeeves. Do you remember Ask Jeeves?
That's it, yeah.
If you used to use Ask Jeeves, hit a comment below. Like, you know,
everyone used to, oh, and then there was, what was it, Yahoo?
Yahoo, yes,
Kind of,
that was my
they're still
first.
kind of going, but they're not as...
Oh, they go. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, it's a whole different way in which people are brought into these universes, and I think you've got to make sure that each of those areas, each of those facets, each of those kind of touch points, look and kind of elevate what you're doing, your message, and how you want
selling, what you're promoting. It's all about making that brand identity and keeping a consistent look and feel and supporting what you're trying to sell. And it doesn't have to be massively wordy. It doesn't have to be hugely pictorial. But however, saying that in this day and age, no one really reads a lot anymore.
No.
So you really do need to make sure that anything you're putting out there really captures attention really quickly and doesn't overload the consumer with too much information. I think that the key point is to direct them where they need to be.
I like that. Yeah.
Because no one reads anything anymore.
No.
And if you are going to put text out, make it concise, to the point, snappy, obviously the right tone for the market that you're going for, but it shouldn't be acres and acres of text.
No, it's something I talk about a lot, especially if you look at, you know, social media, because social media is a very speedy thing. If you look at, you know, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and especially TikTok, you've got literally you've not got even a second to capture someone. And if you go back to that old adage of the, you know, the AIDA principle, that attention now is so prominent and it's got to be so important. And for me, the word I always use is they should be the tease.
Yeah.
If someone wants to learn more, if someone wants to find out more, they
something to go to take you somewhere.
They will take that next step if they want to. Yeah. But if you kind of force too much too soon, you've lost them.
Oh, it's just not interested. There's another 100 million things vying for our...
The next shiny, flashy image
which has got less to read about.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very important that those kind of touch points are all there. So obviously going back to your business centre, you're coming up to that 10-year mark for the business. So congratulations. So in terms of sort of where you found your customers, well, where did they come from back in those days?
The early days, they used to be basically, I was their client.
Oh, okay.
Because when I sort of left my previous employer, I was the client.
Right.
So, you know, when I was out, like we had external designers that we used to use as well, because not the entire design team couldn't do it all.
Sure.
So we used to do a lot of brand management aspect of it, but also the construction side of things. So we used to look after that element of it as well. Right. So we would be dealing with contractors and shop fitters and site signage manufacturers. All this element of it would all have to be looked after because that's part of the brand.
Yeah.
That is something that makes a consistent look and feel. You can't just do one and not do the other.
Yeah.
So when I left, as everyone does when they leave a business, they take their contacts with you. I took 9 years.
For GDPR purposes, that didn't happen.
Of course,
and we're not encouraging it.
But everyone does it.
But it's so it happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, you build these relationships. Some of these people are still my friends. And I've known them for 9 years, and I've worked with them for 9 years. So they're going to get wind that you have a lot left, and that's basically how it started. But my first, literally on the day of opening office, I got an email from she's still an amazing friend, and I do work with her still now, going, I've got some work I need you to do. Can you do it?
Nice.
And so the tables kind of flipped. They became my client. That's how a lot of it started. And then from there, I predominantly was heavily on sort of word of mouth.
Yeah.
It started obviously into the social side of things, and that's brought in clients elsewhere. But I also am a big advocate of doing stuff for charity and supporting local events. And I've got clients from that, bizarrely.
Fantastic. But I think you've alluded to why it's so important to build relationships with people, to speak to people, and it's something that we, going back to what you said about sort of the contacts that you make, that little black book we all have, is so important.
So I don't think you could put a value on it.
No,
because I get clients now, and you get clients coming in, and they'll go, I really need to do this. Can you help with that? Do you know anyone who can do this? And you go, well, actually, I do know someone who can do that. And that's part of building a business relationship, is being able to hand people off to somebody else and go, I know a person who can sort that out for you, especially in the time pressure life that we live now. Some people, you just haven't got the time to be spending looking around for someone to do a specific job when can pull on lots of resources. And because I work in many sectors and have worked in many sectors, I can go, I need this sorting out. Oh yeah, you need to speak to this company.
Absolutely,
yeah, I'll give you the contact detail of X, Y, Z, and there we go. And I've done that quite recently with two of my clients. So that they're now working together because one needed something and doing.
Amazing. And once again, it's that, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And for a lot of the team here at Paragon, what I try and say to the team is build your black books.
Build your relationships. They are so important.
Yeah, if you're connected with Paragon on LinkedIn and such, you'll see a lot of the team posting their own content and building their own connections, because of course, who would want to leave working for Paragon Sales Solutions?
Well, I feel like I should come work here.
They're before we couldn't afford you, but they'd be foolish to leave. But if and when that opportunity arises, they've got their own contact.
Totally.
To take with them.
It's not all about from behind the screen. You need to have proper relationships and working relationships that you can pull on, and sometimes that requires you getting out from behind the screen and going to meet that client. Obviously, we're on the back of 2 years of living behind the screen and not meeting anyone, but we have back in the opportunity, and human interaction is one of the best things for building relationships. There's no way around it.
Absolutely.
Being able to sit there, have a coffee, talk about your problems, or talk about a brief, or go over what they want to do in the next 6 months. It's a key thing, and supporting businesses to achieve that is basically what I do. That's what Cottoning does. I try and make sure that I know what's coming up and how I can best put resources in place to make sure that when they go, we need this doing, I can get it done.
And it comes back down to that communication piece. I would have thought, and I guess brings me to my next question. Actually, you mentioned how you got a hold of these customers, and in a nice, light and airy fairy world, every customer's nice, every client's great to work with, but there might be people watching this, maybe in your position, looking to get in your position, that have dealt with awkward customers, client. How do you deal with customers?
Do you know, in the early days, I was very much, if a customer asks for something, then you drop everything and do it. Right. Sounds, that's what everyone tells you to do. The customer's always king, the customer's always right. But, you hear that all of the time. It's a load of rubbish. I'm not being funny. It's an absolute load of rubbish. What you have to do is work on that relationship with them, be honest with them, and go, can't do it immediately because... but I can do it I can get you in this time frame. Will that be okay? And I can guarantee 99% of the cases, they'll go, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. It's just about being honest.
And is that because you've communicated?
Yeah, it's having that communication with them, and hopefully by that point you've built a good enough relationship and rapport that you can go back to them and go, that's been unreasonable. That's not that. I've got to sleep at some point, sort of thing. I
forget that.
No, I don't.
4 hours a day,
every day, weekends, those. Don't need those. And also, they have to be mindful. I am still a human as well.
Yeah.
So you do need downtime, and you need to step away from the office, because if you don't, your design work or your work's going to only suffer. So
and I think any creative role, whether it's whether it's design, whether it's copywriting, whatever it is,
you have to be out there in the world.
You need that subconscious break to then hit it again.
Well, you literally have to be out there in the world to get new ideas, new creativity. You can't do it all behind a screen. Like even today, driving over here, I was actually bizarrely looking at this for sale signs.
How they're designed.
How they're designed, and how they've done their fonts, and how they've done that, and why have they picked that colour? Would I pick that colour for that? But that is all about exposure. Yeah. You can't just do that via social media. That you need to be in the real world as well. Yeah. I mean, they both have their place.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but you never truly switch off, and you must be the same. You're always thinking about what's the next.
Yeah, always. And I'm exactly the same. I'm always constantly looking at adverts, billboards, listening to adverts, because I'm trying to understand, has it worked on me? If it has worked on me, why? What words have they used? What words
haven't they used?
Yeah, what words how have they placed it? I think about everything because
I've got an issue at the moment with one client, and they're a global client.
Okay.
and they come up with a tagline, strapline, and it's an Americanism.
Oh,
It's spelled in an American way.
right. Okay.
There's been a big conversation about should we be using this, because over here it's going to grate on a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah.
It's going to be really. I did I was at one of the museums in town the other week, and they spelled colour wrong the entire way around. Those people,
Really?
people literally chuntering in the background. Go, that's right, wrong there, and not and there again,
Wow.
just because they spelled colour wrong.
Had they done that purpose? Was it?
No, it was because it was an American exhibition,
Right.
and they just hadn't redone the graphics for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, this tagline's going to be on everything, and it's basically spout as an Americanism. Is it going to cause us problems? It's like,
But
it's been a huge chat.
You know, as Brits love to whinge, moan, and complain.
We do, yeah. It's
So-
part and parcel of our psyche, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm not going to complain about it because it's what we do best. But yeah, I agree with you. And it comes down to, I guess, that P of marketing. There seems to be 100 Ps of marketing now, but you know, the placement side of things. You know, that sort of having that kind of.
The 7 Ps are kind of gone, haven't they, really?
Yeah, I thought it's 70 now. Who knows? They're going to chuck another one in at some stage, I would have thought. But so in terms of you're communicating well with the clients. Have you ever had to sack a client? Have you ever had to get rid of?
Well, I would say sack, but yeah, I have had to let them go.
Yes,
I've done a couple of times with clients, and this is something I think all small businesses or newbies starting out need to get a head around, that sometimes you can get a client that you aren't the best fit with, and you can try and persevere with it, but if the return isn't equaling the effort that you're putting in to maintain that relationship, and it's just causing you constant stress, the best thing for both parties is to basically come to an amicable agreement to part ways, because it's not helping anybody.
No.
You're not getting anything out from it. The design work or whatever work you're doing, it won't be of the quality that you want it to be, because every time you see an email coming in from that client or the phone rings, you just think, oh no, now what?
What? Yeah. What?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just best. And it took a good few years to get that into my head.
Right.
A really good few years for me to realise actually you can go enough's enough, because then it starts to creep into all aspects of other areas. If that client or that whatever you end up in a particularly bad mood, you've had a bad meeting, that creeps into meetings and work with other clients, because we're human after all. We're not robots. We can't just shut off.
Yeah.
That creeps, and it takes a while for that to dissipate.
Yeah. And it ruins the work then for the other clients. It saps up your time.
And also, sometimes you just not got enough in the tank to pick it back up after you've had that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh god. So then you end up wasting an afternoon because you've had an awful meeting in the morning or something like that. And then when you're chasing that client for payment, and the payments aren't really enough to warrant all the chasing around, then you just got to think, well, actually, is this financially viable in the long run for me, considering the level of stress it's causing? And I can guarantee most people it's not. So
No.
have that and do it nicely, do it politely, because you never know, what's going to come of it. Don't burn your bridges, as it were.
Yeah.
But, there are ways to say, I think you should go maybe find someone else that's better suited.
Absolutely.
Thing, or, closer to home so you can meet with them more often, or something like that. I mean, there is ways to do it politely.
To do in a way to keep that relationship open if it would happen. And I think there's a lot of people watching
I think
this.
you also have to be mindful nowadays as well. Social media's out there.
Yeah.
So, the social media covers yourself and me and my business. So you don't want people putting stuff on social media that's going to be seen by other people unnecessarily. So you've always got to be in the mindset you are in the public domain constantly in this day and age. You don't want a bad Google review.
No, not at all. Not at all. And there's going to be a lot of people watching this who, have either started a business or are looking to start the business. And I guess it was similar to when I first heard the term, don't worry about sacking your clients. I was like, not at all. I need the money in the bank. I'll purse. And I've had clients before. I'm like, do you know what? I can tell they're a toxic client, but I'm going to persevere because, we could do with the cash. We could do this. But do you know what? It's always become like running in mud. Yeah, absolutely. And I always find that they're the ones that take the most effort, the most of your energy
for probably not enough reward.
So yes, there's a lot of people watching this that have either just started a business or potentially looking to start a business. And I think hearing the term sacking a client or getting rid of a client would be damaging. I remember when I started the business, someone once, a client of ours actually, we were just talking, And he said, don't be afraid to sack clients, because I think he just got rid of one. And I thought, well, no, this is
that.
This is money. This is revenue I want for the business. But I've always found that those always take the most time. They take the most effort. They take the most mind space. And I've always
not a reward for it either.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just damaged everything. So I think you are right. I think if it's done in the right way, not just suddenly ghosting someone, or or
you have to be an adult about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they would probably are going to be getting the same impression that you're getting. So in some ways, you're probably doing them as much a favour as you are for yourself.
Absolutely.
So I've never had a bad experience saying to a client, enough's enough, it's time to part ways. It's never led to any negativity or any bad press, as it were. But it does happen. And you just, it's one of these things, you just got to accept it in life. It's going to happen. You just got to deal with it in an adult way and a professional manner. And because at the end of the day, it will benefit you both.
Everything will all work out.
Yeah.
The world is not
the universe will provide.
I love that. I love that. So final question then, I guess, and it's a question we ask everyone on the sales circle. And I did prep you for this, so hopefully you've got a good answer. So if you could go back to that first day of business, you sat there, with your absolutely huge computer back in the day, starting the business, and with your dial-up internet. As yourself now, what would you go back and tell that person who is starting business? What advice would you give them?
Right, so this is going to be probably quite dry. It's not an answer, but it's a very practical answer, and it's something that I think a lot of newbie business people struggle to get head round. Is actually make sure your terms and conditions are in place.
Okay. Oh, that is dry. Okay.
That is really dry, really boring, but it is really, really important.
Yeah.
And that in those terms and conditions, it clearly states that you will not work unless they've paid a deposit of X amount, normally percentage, and you do not start and you do not do any work until they have paid that deposit.
Right.
Because there are so many times in my early days where you've had a great meeting, you come off that, it's going to be a great client, you start, and you've literally started doing the work, and then it's all gone belly up. And for whatever reason, that client's kind of decided not to go ahead with the project, and you may have spent 2-3 days, a week on it, and there's no way to recoup that.
Yeah.
There's no way, it's really difficult then to go cap in hand and say, can you pay me for the work that I've already started? If you've got a deposit in place and they paid you for that, that's a commitment from them to you as much as the other way around.
Absolutely.
So always take a deposit. Once they have kind of proved themselves and showed them as reliable payers, then that's it. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, that relationship's developed. Look, we joked it. So although we were joking that it was sort of very dry and so on, I think it's very business critical that you are right.
There's so many people you can do this, and they just don't, and then they get stung, and you're like, and it's the fear, and I think it's the Britishness in us, the Britishness in us to kind of like still. And talking about money and financing is just not something we naturally do as a nation. But it's something that all newbie businesses must make sure they do.
Absolutely.
Terms and conditions and always get a deposit for you.
And I was the same. I started the business. And even when I was sort of doing even some like freelance copywriting and stuff, it was very much. I have a great chat with a client. I want to help them. I want to do everything I can.
Yeah.
Go. Way before. They've committed. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they vanish, something goes wrong, whatever it is. And I've spent hours writing, preparing for nothing. So, Darren, thanks so much for today. Leave your website somewhere around this video. So please do connect with.
Click here or here.
I think it's probably going to be down there. But yeah, we'll make sure we leave a link to your website. Right. And if anyone wants any sort of design help, support, advice, I'll leave some details for them to get in touch with. Darren, thank you very much
for your time.
Thank you. And thank you to you, the viewer, for staying tuned for this edition of the Sales Circle. Make sure before you go anywhere to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like it and drop a comment below. Let us know what your thoughts are. And if you've got any other hints or tips to share, drop them below as well. And until next week's episode, all the best.